Hey, everybody. Brian Zimmerman here, host of Jazz Is Live and an executive editor of Jazz Is Magazine. Want to welcome you back to another episode. Thanks for tuning in on this Wednesday afternoon. Our guest today is a really great one. It is Gerald Clayton. He is a Grammy-nominated pianist out of Los Angeles. He's a graduate of the USC Thornton School of Music. He studied with Billy Childs. He studied with Kenny Barron. He is the son of bassist John Clayton and was the runner-up of the 2006 Thelonious Monk International Jazz Piano Competition. In addition to those amazing credits, he's also done quite a bit of artistic directing, including for the Lionel Hampton Jazz Fest, the Sarasota Jazz Festival, the Santa Fe Jazz Party, the Vail Jazz Workshop, and the Los Angeles Philharmonic programming at the Hollywood Bowl. So if you attended any of those festivals or shows in the past decade or so, there's a good chance you are seeing the handiwork of today's guest, Gerald Clayton. More importantly, he has just released a brand new album. That would be his debut on Blue Note Records. It is called Happening, live at the Village Vanguard, and it's out right now. It's a fantastic album, a beautiful mix of originals and standards, and he's here to talk about it. So without further ado, let's go ahead and bring him in. Gerald Clayton. Gerald, are you there?
I'm here. What's up, Brian? How you doing?
Pretty good, man. Good afternoon to you. Thank you again for joining us. Really appreciate it, man. The new album is excellent.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Before we go any further, I should say we got a couple of the bio points were mixed up with my dad's resume, which is cool. It happens. I wasn't a director of any of those festivals you mentioned, but I was a hungry young musician in the audience for a lot of those. So
there you go. Very cool. Well, hey, you were there in physical presence and in spirit, and if your dad following in his footsteps, I'm sure you will be directing someday, my man. I have no doubt. Gerald, you also have the amazing distinction of, so whenever anybody asks me to recommend a jazz album, let's say they don't listen to jazz, the album I reach for is Ear Food by Roy Hargrove. And that's the album I give them. I say, listen to Strasbourg Saint Denis, listen to the piano player's solo. It is a thing of perfection. And it really is, man. It is one of my favorite albums of all time. And the way you play on that song in particular, the way you interact with the drummer, who I believe was Montez Coleman, right?
Yeah, that's
on
correct.
That album. Just stellar. Like you were reading each other's minds. Really incredible, man. So if you have people watching, if you have not listened to Ear Food, before you listen to Gerald's new album, maybe check out Ear Food by Roy Hargrove featuring Gerald. It is a thing of beauty. Gerald, have you actually seen, there's an a cappella group, you can find it on YouTube, who did an a cappella vocalese version of Strasbourg Saint Denis and harmonized your solo. Have you seen that?
Yeah. Somebody sent me that link, man. That was so cool to see. Made me feel like I've officially become an old fart. Like, wow, the cat's taking my solos from years ago and putting words to them. No, it was an honor, and my whole time with Roy is something that I reflect on with a lot of gratitude and just still in awe of what an amazing person and artist he was and figure in the music. Yeah, I mean, he touched so many people in the community that his presence, when he left us, it was really felt, I learned a lot from Roy, so I'm thankful for those years for sure.
Very cool. And when did you first start playing with him? Was it the same way a lot of cats do, just at a jam session, sitting in with him, or?
Yeah, we were both guests with the Henry Mancini Institute's youth orchestra back in like 2004, 2005, I believe it was. Must have been one of those years in there. And I was performing a piece that my dad arranged to feature me along with the orchestra, and Roy was playing on the same concert. So at one of the rehearsals, we were backstage and just hanging out, and he's like, yeah, man, let's play some tunes, So I think we played Driftin'. I think we played Dolphin Dance, like kind of a Herbie feature. We played some. He's like, cool, yeah. Said, let me know when you get to New York, So I finished my work, and I got to New York, and I hit him up and kind of reintroduced myself. And yeah, it just took off from there. But it's true that the music community is so small that a lot of those kind of interactions, they feel like it's, you know, everybody's just a handshake away, man. If you go out and you hang on the scene, I always tell young people, like, there's no real such thing as networking in what we do. Just be about the music, serve the music as best you can, and be on the scene and hang out, and the rest, you know, kind of takes care of itself.
Yeah. Totally. No, it's great advice. And as we're chatting here, people are writing in from Facebook. Lavinia Dreamweaver saying hello. Yvette Murphy Adara saying she loves Gerald so much. Saw you on the Blue Note at Sea cruise. So your fans are out there, Gerald. And yeah, if you're watching, if you have a question for Gerald, if you just want to say hello, let us know if you've seen him in person. If you've listened to the new album, just drop us a line. Let us know where you're watching from. Yeah, you were in Manhattan for a bit. That would be at you were at Manhattan School?
Yeah, I did a year at Manhattan School of Music, my junior year, kind of like a year abroad. I knew I was going to move to New York after I finished my studies, so I wanted to kind of get a taste of the city without the pressures of having to work immediately. And so it was great. I studied with Kenny Barron that year, and, you know, just got a lay of the land, went to a bunch of clubs and got my butt kicked on a lot of jam session stages, and went back to USC and finished up, and then I moved back to New York in around 2007, and I was there for 10 years.
Wow. So you're back in LA now? I'm
back in LA. I came back a couple of years ago and decided I couldn't neglect my love for the ocean any longer, and now I'm surfing every day and loving life. Yeah, I'm happy.
But there's an incredible scene that has grown. I mean, it's been around, you know, the past decade or so, but people are really paying attention to it now. Just from LA, from, you know, guys like Kamasi and Terrace and Thundercat and yourself, and it's a really vibrant scene out there.
Yeah, you know, there's always been really great musicians in LA. I think the challenge with a city like LA is just the logistics. You know, it's just so spread out that it's hard to get people to come together and be in the same place. You know, that's a challenge the whole world is facing now. But you know, in the before times, you know, to go out and see some music or go to a jam session or whatever it may be, you know, you had to be kind of proactive as a music lover here. And I think that is starting to sort of shift a bit. I mean, there's always people who are hungry for good music and good community. So there's definitely a sense of community, and all those cats you mentioned, you know, we grew up seeing each other, and although we went to different high schools, you know, we would see each other at jam sessions and things like that. So there's a camaraderie, even though we're not together all the time. But I think it is a challenge for LA when you compare it to a city like New York, where the layout is just, it makes it so simple to, you know, take a train to the Village, and you have like 6 or 7 options of great things to check out and be inspired by, all walking distance. So, you know, I think the essence of the music and sort of that perfect sort of incubation place for the art and that kind of expression it lives in New York, and I still urge people to go check it out if they can, and try to be about that and be a part of that energy. But certainly LA is you know, we got a lot of heavy hitters, and you know, that makes me proud too.
Absolutely. California knows how to party, that's for sure. And Gerald, I mean, that's not your new album is recorded at a New York institution, well, really a global institute, a global jazz institution, and that would be the Village Vanguard. And I want to get into talking about the making of that album in a little bit, but just for people watching, so they know, you know, this is Gerald's label debut on Blue Note Records. So in a little bit, we'll probably also be getting into some albums on Blue Note. You know, Gerald is entering rarefied air as a Blue Note artist. So hopefully recommending some Blue Note albums in addition to Gerald's for you to check out as well, you know. So we'll be getting to those as well. But the new one, Live at the Village Vanguard. First of all, the Vanguard. Let's just start there, man. Do you remember the first time setting foot in that place?
You know, I've been there so many times. I don't remember the first time, but
must have been as a kid, right?
No, not as a kid. I mean, I didn't really come to New York. I visited New York once with my family when I was a kid, but that first year that I went to study there, around 2005 or so, I went to the Vanguard pretty much every week. Like you're pretty much guaranteed to see the top level of music making, of improvising, of this expression, right? So you can't go wrong by checking out who's at the Vanguard every week. But even though I don't remember the first time, I will say that no matter how many times you go, you still feel like a little kid. You still feel sort of like daunted by the majesty of the place. I think so many people have testified to this, but the spirits in that room are real.
Yeah.
You washing your hands in the restroom, say, man, Miles Davis washed his hands right here. Train, Sonny Rollins, whoever it is, that they are. That there's an energy in that room that makes everybody sort of step up and try to come as correct as possible.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's something about the design of the place too. Even the red awning, going down the stairs, it feels like you're traveling through time. Almost.
Yeah, it's such a vibe.
Yeah. And so how did the album come about? Did you had this gig lined up and Blue Note approached you and said, hey, let's turn this into an album? Or?
Yeah, I've established a relationship with the Vanguard over the past decade, fortunately, and brought a lot of groups in there. And so, approaching them and asking if they would be willing to let me do a live at the Vanguard album, they said yes, and that they would gladly host me. And so yeah, I had the gig lined up anyways. I've been using my weeks at the Vanguard to kind of bring in as many of my friends as possible and sort of share that experience. I've done some weeks with a trio, and I love that as well. But I've kind of made a point to say, like, if I get a week at the Vanguard, I want to bring more people into this experience and make it more about a larger community. So the past few times I've brought in quintets, and this time was the same. I brought in Logan Richardson on alto saxophone, one of my favorite musicians in the world. Walter Smith III, also just such a beast. I'm such an admirer of his playing. Joe Sanders on bass, my left-hand man for years and years. And Marcus Gilmore, who I think is kind of the Neo of the Matrix. He's kind of the one. He's something else. He's on his own level and his own stratosphere. So yeah, we had the gig anyways. As far as Blue Note and them being willing to sign me and support the record, that was also something that kind of happened a bit naturally. I've seen Don Was a bunch throughout the years, and like I said, this community is pretty small. So he actually, we talked at a gig I did in Los Angeles at LA County Museum of Art. It was a tribute to the great visual artist and activist Charles White. So I presented this piece, and Don was there, and we rapped, and the stars just kind of lined up. It was the right time for me to get in there, and they totally supported me and gave me artistic freedom. And so I already knew that I wanted to do a live record. I was going to find a way to do that either way, because my goal is to try to have the work that I release be an honest representation of who I am as a musician, as an artist. And I think for us, there is no more honest representation than the live experience.
Does not get more candid than this.
Yeah, I think just it's a when you do a record in the studio, it's a different energy, and the majority of our years we're in normal circumstances, we're on the road, and we're going from one room to another, and vibing off the energy in the room, vibing off the energy of the audience. This is a kind of to me an essential part of what this music is all about. So it felt like it was only natural to put that on record and have that be part of my body of work, you know?
Yeah.
So it was going to happen either way. And I'm just honored that Blue Note said, yeah, let's put our stamp on it and support you. And I'm really grateful.
Well, and the timing of the release of this thing has just been incredible, you know, because at a time where we are all craving live music, you know, this is kind of a great surrogate to be able to put on a record like this. You know, it feels like a set. You know, it's got the spirit of the Vanguard is there. It's almost an acoustic quality, that Vanguard spirit. And it's transportive, man. It feels like you're there. And so it is a beautiful thing to put this on and just kind of chill out for the entirety of the album.
Thank you.
Much needed right now.
Yeah, you know, it's funny. We didn't plan.
Right? No, couldn't have known. Right.
I wasn't responsible for the for the pandemic, but yeah, it has been really interesting that it's kind of taken on a different meaning than I initially thought it would. And I've you know, as we all have been using this time to sort of reflect and contemplate and think about our values and the things we hold dear and sort of what we envision when we come out of this. I heard a wonderful interview, and I'm gonna get the name wrong. Selection. Let me pull it up. So it's literally just watching it yesterday by Arundhati Roy.
Okay.
And she referred to this as sort of a portal to that. She and Angela Davis also spoke on trying to use language that doesn't suggest that we are returning to what came before, but actually we're transforming through this time into something new. So trying to think about on the other side of this, what are the values that we want to hold dear, that we want to support, and in what ways. And to me, this record has already had me reflecting a lot on the value and importance of the live experience, of connecting with one another in the room and being present, you know, without distractions. You know, when we get out of this portal to the other side and we're doing a gig and somebody's on their phone, you had the past year and a half and change or whatever to be like, get out of there. Let's be present.
Yeah.
Together, you know, things like this that we really love. I'm sure many of us are sort of thinking about these things as well, and I really pray that on the other side of this we can support that and manifest our vision.
That's a good point, man, to think of this more as a metamorphosis than, you know, just like a, you know, because we heard the terms pause being thrown around and, you know, which is great. It's great to think of, you know, this time that way. But yeah, less a return to normal per se, then this is a great opportunity for change.
Yeah, it's a transformative time, you know, and I think in so many ways, obviously that the way that this has highlighted sort of like all of the bruises that our society has. Yeah. I think it's really important that we take this time to reflect on that and to educate ourselves and to approach all of those things with humility and thoughtfulness and care, and hopefully on the other side take that with us and you know, not just return to some kind of a broken system, but a new one that we've had the time to really sort of to plan for, to think about in a thoughtful way. Anyway, that's on my mind a lot.
Yeah, totally. And you just so happen to have a song. It's an original on the new album, Rejuvenation Agenda, right?
Yeah.
Kind of speaks to this thematically. So yeah, it's and people are writing in. Lavinia says she just got the new album. She absolutely loves it. It's a great album, man. Sean is saying, not on this album, but some always, his top 5 compositions ever. Sean, I agree. That is a beautiful tune. That is a beautiful tune. Fikret is saying hello from Azerbaijan. Wow. Hello to you, Fikret. Beverly from San Francisco. Hello to you. And Herb is saying, yeah, loves your work with Roy. So The love is out there, Gerald. Like I was saying, with this new album happening live at the Village Vanguard, Gerald Clayton enters that rarefied air that is Blue Note artist. So we're hoping we're just going to get into, again, recommending maybe some Blue Note albums that Gerald really digs and that you'll dig too if you haven't heard them yet. I want to get to that in a minute, but first, Gerald, if it's cool, I want to just let everyone know. I want to thank one of our sponsors. That would be Blue Sound and their Refest. So this is kind of interesting. Talk about a scene, Gerald, that's like really exploding at the moment. The London scene, the UK scene. So much happening right now. There's a great organization out of the UK, Gerald, you probably know it, Jazz Refreshed. Anyway, they are putting on a one-day virtual festival this Sunday, August 23rd, called Jazz Refest. Again, brought to you by the UK-based jazz organization Jazz Refest. The 4-hour show will feature performances from Binker Golding, Sarah Gour, Steam Down, MS Maurice, Golden Mean, Jazz Kaiser, and Anthony Joseph. And it's all free. It is all free. It's a virtual showcase that will be streamed via the Jazz Refresh YouTube channel, and the performers will also be broadcast at the same time in MQA studio quality audio via Blue Sound's Blue OS controller app directly into the homes of Blue Sound high-res speaker owners. And I just became a Blue Sound high-res speaker owner. There's my Power Node 2i, just came in the mail today. So as if I needed another reason to listen to streaming high res, I've got the Jazz Refest Festival coming up this Sunday, August 23rd. So anyway, thank you to them. All right, Gerald. So let's get into it. Blue Note, man. I'm just curious because you were so involved in the scene from a very early age. What some of the first Blue Note albums to kind of come on your radar were, For me, I could say definitely Lee Morgan, thinking back, Sidewinder, stuff like that. But do you remember the first one you really dug into?
Yeah. Blue Note has cast such a wide net. There are so many artists and so many different expressions that have come through that label. It's not like you go to Blue Note for one particular sound, right? I mean, it's almost just like talking about an entire section in a record store. So, we can go down so many paths. But for me, if I think about my early days and the kind of the music I was listening to, my initial attraction to this music was musicians like Oscar Peterson and Monty Alexander, who I know you talked to, and Benny Green and, Wynton Kelly, all these like pianists who brought a certain joy and bounce in the way they played. That as a young kid, that was my jam. Like I was really heavy into that stuff. So speaking of one of those pianists, Benny Green, he recorded a record for Blue Note that was live at the Vanguard also. And it's called Testifying. And I wore that record out, man. I listened to every track. I transcribed, as many of the solos as I possibly could, and that was a big one for me in those early years for sure. And then I went to high school. I met a bunch of other young musicians who were hungry about the music, and they were checking out different artists I hadn't checked out before, and that process just continued throughout the years, and a time that I really got heavy into some Blue Note records and Blue Note artists I wasn't necessarily aware of was when I was driving to San Diego from LA every week, every Tuesday night, to play with a great trumpet player named Gilbert Castellanos. And Gilbert was a huge record collector and had transcribed a bunch of those tunes from old Kenny Dorham records and Clifford Brown records. And, his love and passion for Blue Note was huge, and at that time I really started to kind of it opened my eyes to the breadth of music that's out there on the label. So yeah, I guess that's another sort of phase, right?
Okay.
But then it keeps going all the way until to the present. They were supporting artists in the 80s and 90s who were super hip, right? And even now, the Robert Glaspers and the Jason Morans and Ambrose Akinmusire and some people that I guess you would consider more of my contemporaries in terms of age. Amazing music and amazing records, and the list goes on and on. I actually have a book. It's a coffee table book, but it's the album cover art, the ultimate collection of Blue Note album cover art. Man, you know, without even listening to the music, you could just see how much of a vibe.
Oh man,
so many records in here.
Iconic, the whole style. And that's a great segue, Gerald, because our forthcoming issue, our new issue coming out in September, our fall 2020 issue, is all about the art of the album. And so, of course, you know, Reed Miles, who was the principal designer for so many of those Blue Note albums, covered extensively. But you're right, they had a whole vibe. It wasn't just, I mean, the music obviously was a huge part of it, but down to the typography, down to the layout of the liner notes, you know, it was just so iconic in jazz. Yeah. And some of those artists you mentioned, you know, Kenny Dorham, because I am a trumpet player. Oh, nice. A bad one, but I am a trumpet player nonetheless. Kenny Dorham, you know, absolutely one of the most underrated trumpet players out there. And his stuff on Blue Note is just brilliant, you know, and props to Blue Note for shining a light on this soft-spoken genius. I mean, he wasn't out there wailing, but he had a style that was just so, you know, articulate, so melodic. So definitely one of my favorites as well. And you mentioned that whole lineup of pianists in the beginning, like from O.P., Kenny Barron, Monty Alexander. And you're so right. It's like a personality that comes through, right? Which Blue Note obviously did an excellent job in capturing. And even speaking to someone like Monty, you could tell some people you could tell just from the way they speak. You know, it translates into how they play. Very narrative, very melodic, almost in the way they tell a story. Their ability to like sustain a through line. I'm thinking of Benny Golson too. Is just like that. You listen to Benny Golson talk, it's exactly the way he plays. So, and you know, I think, you know, I haven't talked to you that often, but watching interviews, you also have that same kind of, again, emotional transparency of like, the way you're thinking, the way you construct a thought plays out in your lines, man. It's a beautiful thing to listen to.
Oh man, I appreciate that. It is interesting how when you take a great artist, it seems like their expression goes beyond just the bandstand. You know, that there's something about the lessons that this music teaches us when we investigate it that really do translate to life, and you start to express yourself with that same creativity and courageousness and sensitivity, things like that. In many ways, and it's not just musicians, right? I mean, this is available for anybody to live this way, but certainly all my favorite artists, you know, the way they speak is always really interesting. You know, it's like just thinking today about the great Cedar Walton, who passed away on this day. Might get the year wrong, but maybe 2013. Anyway, we lost Cedar on this day, so I've been thinking about him, and man, he was such a wordsmith. You know, when you talk to Cedar, it was like listening to a solo. You know, and I still see that the same thing applies today with the great players and figures in our music. Seeing the way they express themselves off the instrument, off the bandstand, whether it's just what they're doing on social media or whatever it is, there's something really hip and special to that. That I'm thankful for that part.
Totally, it conveys that originality of thought. You know, you can just tell. Like,
maybe it's originality, or maybe it's just a shared creativity. You know, I've been thinking more and more about trying to get out of thinking in a sort of individualistic way and see it as it's available, you know, that we don't necessarily have to subscribe to the way that, you know, whatever's laid out for us, that there's always the option to approach life with a sense of wonder and creativity and that is shared. And maybe because it's not the norm, it seems different or original or unique or something. But I think it is a shared human quality.
Beautiful, man. Beautiful. Hey, we have Afghan again saying loves when Gerald plays standards, especially solo piano. I agree, Afghan. And Joyce Glasgow sending her love as well. So again, thanks everybody for writing in. The new album happening live at the Village Vanguard. It is out right now at this very moment for streaming and for purchase. Folks, right now is the time. Let's purchase these albums. Let's buy the physical. Like I say, it is a perfect album to just put in a CD player or drop a needle on and just chill out for the evening. This is definitely the album to do it. And Gerald, this album came out earlier this month, but as you can hear the incredible thunder in the background there.
Wow.
But during these tough times, these lockdown times, this dry spell for a lot of musicians, is there anything else in the works, or you've been working toward anything on the horizon?
Yeah, I'm always thinking ahead. I've always got my my sort of couple months ahead to-do list and my sort of pipeline dreams, my 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 5 year goal type of thinking. And of course that shifts as I, walk through life. But definitely thinking about the next record and what that would look like. Just in some ways, nothing has changed as far as my process with this pandemic. That my productivity, what I'm able to get after on a day-to-day basis, I usually put that on myself more than I do on the environment or circumstances. So, I've always managed to be lazy. Let's just put it that way. Pandemic or no, I've always found a way to say like, yeah, I also just, I want to go to the beach and surf. So I'm doing a lot of that.
Okay.
I find a lot of inspiration and joy in that as well. And yeah, it's also shown a light on how much I do rely on the community, how much I need my brothers and sisters in the music to help push me forward. A lot of times what we're working on under normal circumstances from the before time, what we're working on is in reaction to what work we have, what deadlines we have. I have a gig with such and such. I got to learn their music. So now that we don't have that, we kind of have to create that for ourselves. We're sort of the masters of our own destiny that way. So I'm doing the same thing I always have been. I'm trying to wake up and approach the day with the goal of being better than I was the day before. And sometimes that's directly on the piano, and sometimes that's off the piano.
Like on the waves, man.
There you go.
There you go. Very cool. Well, hey, like we said, happening live at the Village Vanguard. It is out right now on Blue Note Records. I encourage you, everyone watching, go check out the album. It's really, really good. And then, Gerald recommended a few others. Check out Blue Note stuff by Kenny Dorham, Kenny Barron, Oscar Peterson, Ambrose Akinmusiri. There's a lot. Blue Note is a vast catalog, and you could really start anywhere and can't go wrong. You wind up somewhere great. So, Gerald, thank you so much for joining us today, and congrats on the new album. Like I said, it is awesome, and we look forward to whatever you got on the horizon, and we'll keep an eye out for it, and maybe someone will, cross paths on the beach one day. Yeah, I'm not a surfer, but our producer, Jeff, people know our behind the scenes producer, Jeff. He's a big wakeboard guy, wake surfer guy. So
okay, right on. Cool. Well, thanks so much. Thanks for having me, and thanks for everything you do for the music. And lots of love to all the supporters out there and the fans. Can't wait for the day that we return to catharsis together.
Me too, man. Me too, man. Appreciate you coming on today. Thank you so much, Gerald. I will see you backstage, but I'm going to sign off for people watching at home.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Take care, Gerald. Bye. So yeah, once again, thank you to our guest, Gerald Clayton. The new album happening live at the Village Vanguard, out right now. Like I say, it is a perfect album. You got an evening, to yourself, pop it in the CD player, put it on the record player, pour yourself a glass of something, and just chill out. It's the perfect album for that. Before we sign off, I want to quickly mention, again, our forthcoming print issue is coming out in September. It is our fall 2020 issue, all about the art of the album. Gerald mentioned some Blue Note covers there. We get into that in this issue. It is all about collecting albums, producing albums, listening to albums, and of course, album cover art. If you're not a subscriber, you could become one today for just 99 cents per month for 3 months. That'll give you unlimited access to our site. Plus, we'll enroll you to receive a complimentary print issue come September. So check that out right now. Just go to jazzes.com and hit subscribe. That'll do it for today's episode. Make sure you follow us on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube, hit that notification bell so that you know when we are live. Thanks for watching, everyone. See you next time. Bye.